Thanks. Welcome to Relating with Money in Financial Peace University. Money and relationships, oh my goodness. Soon as you say money and relationships, we all go, uh-oh. There's family, there's extended family, there's marriage, there's the singles, there's the kids. Anytime you think about money and relationships, you think about friction. You think about a chance to mess things up. You think about something that could be off. I mean, we all know it's a struggle point. Those of us that are married, we're sure it's a struggle point. You know, I'm often interviewed in the press, and they're saying, Dave, why do you discuss the finances through the lens of the Bible? Why do you talk about biblical finances? Are you like some kind of Christian crusader or something? And I went, well, no, for me, it's common sense. Personal finance is 80% behavior. And if it's 80% behavior, it's only 20% head knowledge, then we got to know that anything that affects behavior affects our ability to succeed with money. And so that would be our spiritual walk. And so we're going to talk about it through the lens of the Bible. I'm a Christian. I'm proud of that. We do that all over the place in mainstream media. We do that in mainstream venues as I'm speaking. And the reason is because it works. Biblical finance works. It works because it deals with me, the person, and changing me, more than it deals with some kind of abstract mathematical concept. The reason biblical finance works is it makes us deal with our relationships. It makes us deal with our emotions. And I will tell you, there's a huge correlation between those people who win at relationships and those people who end up winning at money. Because there's the same kind of dynamic going on there. It's very, very, very important. Very few people win at money long term and don't have some kind of ability to work with others, to play well with others. And certainly there's a huge correlation between quality marriages for those of us that are married and our ability to win with money, our ability to deal with conflict in that setting. Behavior is tied to our relationships, and relationships are tied with money. The flow of money in your household, in a household, represents the value system that household is operating under. Who's in charge? What's the power flow? What are the fears? What are the positive things in our character attributes? What are the negative things in our character attributes? What's good going on in our relationships? What's bad? How do we feel? How hopeful are we? All of these things are represented in our value system, and it causes us to handle money according to that system. Jesus said this. He said that your treasure is where your heart is. What you do with your money says what's important to you. Larry Burkett used to call this the checkbook test. Back in the old days when we all kept a checkbook and you wrote out everything, what you wrote a check for, if you would just run your hand down the checkbook, you could tell what was important to someone. Because they spend their money and they spend their time and they spend their energy on the things that are important to them. You and I are the same exact way. When it comes to men and women and money, we view money differently. Gary Smalley, the great marriage counselor, he says that men are different than women in that men share facts. Women share feelings. Now, women can be factual and men can be emotional, but by and large, our default mechanism is we're going to go to facts and feelings. Men connect by doing things. Some of the best times I've ever had with my son is when we're doing something. When both of us are just sitting, we don't know what to do. But when we're building something or we're playing together or we're skiing together or something like that, that's two men connecting. My sons-in-law, the same situation. I enjoy doing things with them. Ladies connect by talking. They communicate. We don't know what that is. Strange to us. I mean, my son and I got in the car a while back, and I've told this story many times, and we were driving from Nashville to Knoxville to a football game. We drove 200 and something miles, almost 3 hours. And hardly said a word, and we were both fine. We kind of liked it that way. It was okay. And it's not that we're all stopped up or something. That's just guys. We don't have to do that. We were just fine counting the mile markers and doing the math in our head. Right? Men and women are different. Dennis Rainey talks about this in Family Life Today. He says women are more verbal than men. Generally speaking, men will speak about 30 to 40,000 words a day. Ladies will speak about 70 to 80,000 words a day, with gusts up to 125,000. Smalley says that men are more controlling and women are more agreeable, to which the ladies said amen. Smalley says that men are more independent and ladies are more interdependent. You just don't see a bunch of guys getting up and going to the restroom at the same time. That would be weird, but ladies do it in herds. I mean, they just go. When I'm running and training for a marathon, I want to go run by myself. I'm just fine like that. Just leave me alone. Let me have my tunes. I'm good. My wife goes to the Y. She runs with her little running herd, right? They got a running herd there at the Y, and they run together. And it's a social event for them. For me, I'm just herding. Leave me alone, right? It's a different thing. John Gray says in Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus that men define ourselves by our ability to achieve results. Don't miss that in the money subject. Men define ourselves by our ability to achieve results, where women tend to define themselves by the quality of their relationships. The quality of their relationships. We see this reflected, some of these differences reflected in the area of the emergency fund. In the super savings lesson, I told you baby step 1 was $1,000 in the bank. Do you remember that? Say yes. Yes. And then we jumped over to baby step 3, and a fully funded emergency fund is how many months? 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside in the emergency fund. When we start talking about putting $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 aside, men say stuff like, this is boring. It's not sophisticated enough. Women, on the other hand, say this is the most important key to our financial plan. Men and women process the subject of the emergency fund differently. Guys we want to do something with it. We want to fix it. We can't imagine something just sitting there, not hardly earning any interest. We want to put it in a bond fund. We want to put it in a BBD of some kind, a bigger, better deal. There's something, I got to get this thing in. And ladies are going, leave that alone. It's sitting there for emergencies. I need all the men in the room to stand up, please. All the men, stand up, please. Now, men, I'm sure you know this, and we've been talking about it for the last few minutes, but it's very true. Women are different, aren't they? Say yes. Yes. And one of the things you may or may not know is they have a gland right in here that you don't have. It's called the security gland. And when she is feeling insecure due to money issues or job issues or financial problems, that gland spasms. And it is attached to her face. So what I have figured out is this. Guys, it doesn't matter what you think. She knows down inside of her the way that God has wired her to have an emergency fund. And I'm going to teach you, for those of you that are married or ever want to be married, 2 things that will revolutionize your marriage on this subject of money. One is how to do a budget together, and then the other one is to have this emergency fund. Guys, it's an investment in your relationship to have a fully funded emergency fund. It causes her to relax in a place you don't even have. So what I'm saying is you don't have to get it, you just gotta get it. Am I right, ladies? Yes. All right, all the men have a seat, please. And if you will look at the screen, you will see what happens, men, if you don't get an emergency fund. I love it. You know what she's saying, don't you? My mama said you were going to be a failure. You know that's what that is. Oh, my goodness. When it comes to shopping, men and women process shopping differently. Men get good deals by negotiating. We go to one store, pull out a bazooka, and you know, we get out our $100 bills and we're going to go get a deal in that store. We're going to do conflict. We're going to come home. We're going to kill something and drag it to the cave. And ladies, on the other hand, they get good deals by hunting and hunting. And hunting, and hunting, and hunting. We went to this marriage conference one time, Sharon and I, and this marriage guy said, he was just wrong. It was a bad idea. He said, if you want to create intimacy with your wife, men, go shopping with them. That was just a big fight. That didn't work at all. That wasn't intimacy. That took 3 days of marriage counseling to get out of that. It was more like what Gary Smalley said. He tells the story when you go to the mall, here's what happens. He says, you get out of the car and you go to the mall with your wife, and your wife gets out, and what's the guy do? He goes, identify the target. What are we here for? I'm going to map out the shortest way through the store. I'm going to quickly go to the rack, pull the item off the shelf. I will analyze the registers as I'm walking toward them, see which one's moving the quickest. I will get in the line, and we will be back to the car in 17.7 minutes. Synchronize our watches. Go. And the lady's going, no. Wait. We're here to experience this. We're going in every store. We're going to touch and feel everything in every store. We're going to buy a bunch of stuff, and while we're checking out, we're going to discuss the checkout girl's family problems with her. And we're going to take all this stuff home, and tomorrow we're going to bring most of it back. And the guy's going, that is a lot of work to get some stuff. I could have just gone in there and got it. Why do we have to go through all this? Because it's an experience. So once Sharon and I figured out these differences, we have a plan now. I'm really good at negotiating. She's really good at hunting. She gets good deals, but she doesn't get them through conflict. She gets them through hunting until she finds someone that will pay her to take it almost, right? But what she does is she goes and hunts down the best deal. She narrows the field down to that one, and then she sends out her warrior to kill it. But we don't go together. She wears me out, and I embarrass her. I mean, I can be on stage for 5 hours speaking. My feet don't hurt. I walk into a mall, my feet hurt to my neck in 30 seconds. We process things differently. Men and women do. And you need to listen to me very carefully. Men lose self-esteem in a financially troubled situation because with men, money represents a scorecard typically. Now, what that means, ladies, if you're in here financially struggling, that means that your man does not feel great about himself right now. He doesn't feel like Sir Galahad. He may be all looking good, got the stiff upper lip, all that kind of stuff, but inside he's dying. And you know, sometimes, you know, his sword could be a little bit rusty. Sir Galahad's armor could have a little moss on it. And the last thing he needs in the middle of that is a barking chihuahua around his ankles. Yip, 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 yip. He may find one last use for that sword. Ladies, on the other hand, face fear because that security gland spasms. Sharon made us change this. She said it's not fear, it's terror. Because money represents security to ladies in a way that guys don't get. Now, here's what's weird. Sometimes ladies are stronger emotionally on this subject to fight through it than men are, but they're afraid in a place, guys, that you don't even have. So again, if you're in here and you're struggling financially and you're in a marriage situation, men, listen to me carefully. Your lady needs an extra 3 to 6 non-sexual hugs a day. Now, I'll help you with that because some of you don't know what that is. That's touch for the purpose of reassurance that is going nowhere. Okay. We started this thing together. We're going to go through it together. It's that kind of hug. It's the hug you have in the middle of a storm because you're in the middle of a storm. That's the type of thing I'm talking about. And so, ladies, you need to understand your guy needs to be reassured by you that you love him not because of what he produces. You love him for him. And guys, your lady needs to be assured that we're not going to melt down, that this whole thing's not going to fall apart. They may take the car, but they're not taking our marriage. That we may have to get a different house, but there's a house on every corner. We'll figure this thing out together. We're hanging on to each other. This is a big deal. This stuff will take your marriage. Bankruptcy and divorce, they're two brothers that hang out together. It's not unusual for a divorce attorney to tell someone to file bankruptcy or a bankruptcy attorney to tell someone to file divorce. These are best friends. And so these stresses are real. And it's the number one cause of divorce in North America. Money fights. Utah State University did a study that says that those who disagreed about money once a week were twice as likely to divorce as those who differed less than once a month. So if you have 1 fight a month or 4 fights a month, twice as likely to get divorced about money. Big deal. A couple with $10,000 in debt and no savings All the statistics in this same study said you're twice as likely to get divorced as someone with $10,000 in savings and no debt. That's a big number. And neither one of those are huge amounts of debt or huge amounts of savings. But it's the feeling we get, this sense of working together, this sense of power, this sense of hopefulness about our future. It changes everything. And when we first get married, the preacher lies to us. You go down the aisle, dun, 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 and he says, and now you are one. You remember that first year? You about killed each other. You remember? Yeah, your mama's ugly too, Sharon and I didn't get a divorce. We hung on to each other, but sometimes it was just to get a better grip. Frying pan throwing in East Tennessee, where she's from, is an Olympic event. Well, Dennis Rainey talks about this in Family Life Today. He says what happens is we get married and you've got your agenda and your spouse has their agenda. It's almost as if you have two blueprints and you're trying to build a house at the same time. One of you's got blueprints for a 2-story house and one of you has blueprints for a tri-level. And if you don't sit down and figure this thing out, you're going to build a pretzel. So you got to learn to work together. Opposites attract too, don't they? Now, not only are men and women different, but one of you's in here right now burning up, and the other one is freezing to death. One of you is on time for everything. And the other one, late. Late. I have to be on time. It's part of being a nerd. I have to be on time. Drives me crazy to be late. Drives me nuts. And when our kids were little, we almost lost our religion getting ready for church. I'm in there going, by the time we get there, people, Jesus is going to be gone. Let's go. Get going here. And Sharon used Steve and Annie Chapman's line on me one Sunday. She said, why don't we trade places this Sunday? You get the kids ready and I'll go out in the driveway and honk the horn. Opposites attract. One of you is a spender and one of you is a saver. And you need each other. You spenders need a saver in your life. So you don't have to retire and order that cookbook, 72 Ways to Prepare Alpo, and love it. You savers need a spender in your life so you have a life. Someone has to get you out of the cave other than on Triple Coupon Thursday. Opposites attract. And when you agree on your value system and you learn to work through the differences in male and female and the differences in the opposites, you're going to find that you reach a unity in your marriage that you can experience in no other way. And unity is powerful. Unity is a biblical concept. When we are unified, it causes us to be bigger than the two. It creates this thing that the mainstreamers call synergy. But those of us that know Scripture know that that's God showing up in the middle of a unified something. When a group of people get unified, when you get unified in your marriage, it adds power. Zig Ziglar talks about this with the old Belgian horse story. And the Belgian horse, in case you don't know, is a huge plow horse, much like a Clydesdale or something. This is a massive horse. And you buckle that dude into a harness and he's pulling weight. A Belgian horse can pull 8,000 pounds. Here's what's amazing. You put two Belgian horses together the same size who have never met. They've never been trained together. They've never been buckled in harnesses together. You put them in there. You would think that if one can pull 8,000, then two ought to be able to pull 16,000, right? Say yes. Two of them that have never been trained together can pull 24,000 pounds. 3 times as much as one. Train them for 6 weeks together where they pull together, yoked equally. Does that sound like Scripture? When they learn to pull together in tandem, training, one can pull 8,000, two trained in unity can pull 4 times as much, 32,000 pounds. That's amazing. That's true with your money. It's true with your life. When you're pulling together in the raising of your children, when you're pulling together in the implementation of your careers, when you're pulling together in the handling of your money, you find this unity gives you a lift that you never dreamed you would have otherwise. And as we're talking about these opposites attract, and it's hard on a practical, mechanical level to learn to work together. Who should do the financial decision making in the marriage? Well, the man ought to do the financial decision making in the marriage. No, he shouldn't. He may be clueless. Well, the lady then, ladies they care about the home. Maybe they should take care. No, they shouldn't. They might be clueless. Here's an idea. God put you together because you need each other. Larry Burkett says if two people just alike get married, one of you is unnecessary. You fill in for each other's stuff, don't you? And so who does the financial decision making in a marriage? Both of you. That's who it is. Both of you do. Both of you do. Both of you do. Both of you do. And let me just tell you, men, your wife does not want to raise a large male child. She wants a man to be in her house. She wants a man. And that doesn't mean you suddenly have to become Poindexter nerd and start doing all the budgets and doing everything. She just wants someone to walk with her and make adult decisions. She doesn't want her man on an allowance. You put the kids on that, right? She wants, and men, ladies, your husband doesn't want to raise a princess. It's not cute. He wants a full-grown woman beside him. A woman of God, walking in God's Spirit and God's power. When you put these two things together, it's amazing what happens. Both of you have to be adults to be able to win. Well, I have to take care of my little wife. My husband, I give him a certain amount of money, but he's just like a 4-year-old. He spends it. That stuff's got to stop. That's children. And let me tell you what happens. The spouse that is the adult gets really sick of it and bitter after a while. And it causes major problems. They get tired of putting up with this large child in their life. Now, is that kind of bitter? Is that kind of blunt? Does that kind of hurt your feelings? Good. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to rough off the edges, man. I'm the sandpaper in your life. I want you to hear this stuff loud and clear. I've loved on people for so long in this subject, and I got to tell you, it is so freeing for a lady whose husband, for the first time in 17 years of marriage, stands up and says, I'm not going to take this away from you. I'm not going to bully you, but we're going to walk together. It is so freeing for a man after 11 years of marriage for his wife to stand up and go, I've been the problem, and I'm now going to be part of the solution with you. This is an amazing conversation in your marriage for some of you. Now, some of you are already doing this stuff right, but you and I know what I'm talking about. We've all got a friend. I got this friend. And opposites, it's a big deal here. The partner with the natural gift can prepare the budget, but the decision making is done by both of you. You make the decisions together. Now, one of you is more administrative. One of you is the nerd. The nerd likes doing the budget because it gives them control and they feel like they're taking care of the loved ones, right? Now, the nerd is the administrative gift. They like details. You know, they're already online doing stuff ahead. They've done the homework ahead. They got here early and got a good seat. You know, the nerd has got everything organized. I mean, their sock drawer is folded, right? Their underwear drawer is folded. How many of you are on my team? You're the nerds at your house. I'm a nerd. Good. Okay. Now, and then there's the free spirit. The free spirit feels controlled, not cared for, and can appear irresponsible to the nerd. Now, free spirits can be perfectly grown up. They just don't get this thrill out of a 3-generation spreadsheet. Going to the 3rd tab is a little much for the free spirit, right? They're really glad this class is funny. Right? That's the free spirit. How many of you are on my wife's team? You're the free spirit. It can be man or woman. It doesn't matter. Yeah, see, the free spirits, you don't even have to tell them. They start a wave. Woohoo! Right? and some people say, well, the nerd is always the saver. The nerd's not always the saver. The nerd's not necessarily the saver. I'm not the saver at my house. I'm the spender. That's why God makes me teach this every day. My name is Dave, and I like stuff. Hi, Dave, right? You know? And you know, so the free spirit's not necessarily the spender. I'm a nerd spender. My wife is a free spirit saver. And so it can be mixed up, and it can be man or woman. There's no right or wrong here. There's just differences in how we're approaching this thing. So there's male and female differences. There's nerd and free spirit differences. There's all these different things that are entering into this equation, and then we try to talk about money. Well, no wonder there's a fight. No wonder. It's complicated. There's a lot of variables flying around in this discussion. Big time. And you know, and then you get on top of this, you get a spouse who doesn't want to participate. A spouse who doesn't want to help. We call them a reluctant spouse. A spouse who's sick of hearing Dave Ramsey say, well, let me coach you just a little bit on this, okay? If you have a spouse who's not really on board, I'm not talking about a free spirit. I'm just talking about they don't want anything to do with this stuff. You don't need to go in there and tell them, Dave Ramsey said this and Dave Ramsey said that. You're going to make me into a cuss word. Don't do that. And you know, and the other thing you don't do is go, hey, I went to this class and we've got a new financial plan. Dave Ramsey laid out our new financial plan, and my financial plan is I'm going to sell your car. And then you wonder why they're not all excited about Financial Peace University. You got to think here. And what happens then is we get in attack mode, right? See, what happened here is this. You made the mistake of starting when you're having a disagreement with your spouse on something that you're passionate about changing your life on. If you start with what you're going to do, you're going to mess up. Instead, you need to talk about why. Don't talk about what we're going to do. Talk about why we're doing it. If we're going to live like no one else, what's it going to look like when we live and give like no one else? And start talking about that dream. Start talking about the why. Ask your spouse, what would it be like if we had $1 million? What would we do? Where would we travel to? What would we buy? Who could we help? What would be the giving pattern? What would be changed if we became something as a couple where we were working together on that? And talk about the why. Talk about the number one cause of divorce in North America today is money fights and money problems. I don't want this to happen to us. We just got married, or we've been married and we've been struggling. Look, this is our chance to fix this. This is a guy that knows what he's doing. He can walk us through this process. Talk about the why. Talk about your dreams. Because what normally happens is this. The nerd and the free spirit get married, and everything was cute when they were dating. You know, all those differences, they're cute when you're dating. But when you get married, they're abrasive then. It's not cute anymore. Those are the very things that make me mad, are the things that used to be cute. And so what happens is the nerd and the free spirit get married. And then they come home, and the nerd goes up on the mountain to talk to God, chisels out the budget on a stone tablet, comes home to the free spirit and says, I've been talking to God, and here's our budget. God and me have figured this out. To which the free spirit goes, do what? I'll look at that when I get back from Home Depot. And so it begins. And the free spirit goes, I have married a control freak. This girl's got his thumb on me. She's trying to tell me everything to do. They're freaking me out. And the control freak nerd is going, how am I going to win? They won't behave. And they're running around with a pooper scooper trying to clean up everything. And so begins the fight. So I don't want to change you if you're a nerd. And I don't want to change you if you're a free spirit. But I have learned to teach you how to work together. Here's how you work together. We call it the budget committee meeting. Now, the budget committee meeting has rules. Nerds, I want you to do the budget. Right now, you're going to go to the quick start budget and knock that out like we talked about in the first lesson. When we get to the full budgeting thing, I want you to lay out the budget, because free spirits don't do budgets. Do they, nerds? Say no. So I want you to lay out the budget, give every dollar a name. Every dollar has an assignment, the zero-based budget, income minus outgo equals zero, all of that stuff. I want you to lay all that stuff out, and I want you to write the budget, and I want you to lay it on the table at the committee meeting. And I want you to slide it over to your free spirit. How many of you are nerds? You're on my team. All right, nerds, there are 3 rules for nerds in the budget committee meeting. Rule number 1, slide the budget over with all of your opinions and shut up. The free spirit is sick of you preaching at them. They're sick of you telling them every mistake they've made since 1962. They're tired of hearing what Dave Ramsey said. Shut up. Your opinion is on the paper. You just spent the money the way you thought it ought to be spent. Shut up and let them look at it. The second rule, nerds, is this. This is a meeting. It is not a weekend-long financial summit. We're going to stay in here until we get this budget. 17 days we've been in here with dried food. Won't work. Nerds, let me tell you, when your free spirit is sitting there looking at the budget, with a free spirit in the budget, you have a 17-minute window. After that, their body may stay, but their spirit will leave. This is real world, isn't it? The last thing for nerds is this. Nerds, you have to insist that the free spirit change some things on the budget. And the nerds are like, why would we change it? It's right. Because we're tricking them to get them involved. No, because their opinion counts. Ephesians says, submit yourselves one to another. We're working together here. I want your opinion on this. We're going to take your opinions. Now, free spirits, raise your hand. Did I take up for you? Rule number 1 for the budget committee meeting for you, you must come to the meeting. Rule number 2, bring your brain. I want one is not a process we can use. I work so hard. Oh, shut up. Really? Seriously, I don't want to hear this anymore. Instead, you look at the budget and you go, I think $14 for food might be a little low, honey. And I noticed that green fees for golf are $1,800. I don't know how this math stuff all works, but maybe we could just switch those. Because see, when you get done, it still has to equal 0. This has to balance. You're not in Congress. Okay? Last thing, free spirits. Raise your hand one more time. There's a phrase you've been saying. If you want to have this unity in your marriage, you want to have a total money makeover in the way we handle money, you want financial peace in the budgeting process, there's a phrase you've been saying you can't say anymore. Whatever you want to do, honey. Wrong, cop-out breath. You can't say that anymore. You can't just go, oh, you just take care of it, and I am going to go over here and do things to mess up your plan. That has to stop. We are going to work together from this point forward. Now let's look at singles and money. 1/3 of the households in America today are headed by a single adult. They're young and never married, or they're single again. 49% of the single parent households now live below the poverty level, according to the Census Bureau. So if you know a single mom, you know a single dad, there's a 1 in 2 chance that they're below the poverty level. They're barely making it. And so if they're in the class, put your arms around them, metaphorically speaking, walk with them, help them any way the class can, because they are struggling. Singles face different issues than married people face when it comes to money. One is they face time poverty and fatigue, which can lead to poor money management. Now, we all face time poverty. We're all busy. We're in a frenetic culture. Everything's just crazy and going nuts. But singles have to do everything by themselves. So there's no delegation. You get the dry cleaning, I'll get the oil change. They get to do both. And so they've got the kids. If there's kids involved, they got the whole thing. And it becomes overwhelming. If you're single, beware of impulse buying, which can be brought on by stress or the I owe it to myself syndrome. My life is tough, and so I'll be better if I just get some new clothes. This is known as medicating your life with spending, which makes your life worse. I met a single mom one time who she came in for counseling because every time she dropped her kid off with her nasty, mean ex, they had a fight, and she would go buy a pair of shoes to feel better. And she opened the closet one day, and there were hundreds of pairs of shoes. And she never wore them all. And she didn't even realize she was doing it. And she went, uh-oh, warning, there's a problem. I need some help with this. And so, we put them all on eBay, and we got her out of a bunch of the debt. But, it was, you cannot do this pity party spending stuff if you're single. I'm lonely. I'm going to go to the mall. That's not the place you go. You don't go spend money to feel better in those situations. Loneliness often causes singles to go out and spend money they don't have just to be, quote, out in the world, to get out of this room, to get out of this house, to get out of this apartment. A lot of eating out goes with that as well. So some strategies for single. A written plan gives the single person empowerment, self-accountability, and control. The budget for the single becomes part of their accountability. It's the plumb line. It's their out-of-bounds marker so they know when they're there. If you're single, put a circle around that statement right there and put stars all the way around it. A written plan gives the single person empowerment. It gives you self-accountability, and it gives you control because you have something to measure your behaviors against, because those of us that are married, we have something to measure our behaviors against. It's called our spouse. When we walk in, they go, "What's in that bag?" Right? But you walk in single, you got to have something to measure it against and go, whoop, I went over this category. Or I can't buy this, I'm going to go over this category. And that's what the budget does for the single. It's very, very, very powerful. You need to develop an accountability relationship when you're single. Even the Lone Ranger had Tonto. You got to have some help. You got to have somebody looking. It's not that you're incomplete as a single, but the Bible says in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. Now, what an accountability relationship is someone who loves you enough to hurt your feelings for your own good. And so this is someone that, you get ready to do your budget, you get ready to go do an expenditure, they're looking at you going, no. And they're just all up in your stuff going, no. You cannot buy a car, it's a flat tire. Fix the car. And this needs to be someone, it could be a parent, it could be an uncle, it can be a friend, it can be a pastor. I don't care who it is, but they ought to have some sense with their money, right? You know, your accountability partner doesn't need to be your shopping buddy. Oh, get 3. That's not what we're talking about. And this is someone who you can discuss a purchase with. I'm considering this purchase. What do you think of the wisdom of this purchase? This is someone who you look at your budget with, and they can go over it with you. While you're in Financial Peace University, use your small group as accountability if you're single. But in the meantime, find someone that loves you enough to hurt your feelings for your own good. Now, as we start talking about kids and money, teaching children about money, I can't think of a better person to teach you about children and kids and money than a Ramsey kid. So I want to bring to the stage to have her do this, my daughter, Rachel Cruz.
When you were younger, did you have a birthday where you wanted just one specific gift? You didn't care if you got anything else, but you just wanted that one thing. Well, for me, that was on my 6th birthday. And I can remember sitting on the living room floor, and I had opened up all my gifts. There was wrapping paper and boxes, and I had one gift left. And I can remember just praying in my little 6-year-old voice, God, let it be her, let it be her. And I go down and open the last gift, and as I'm tearing open the paper, there are 2 bold words, American Girl. And if you've had a 5 or 6-year-old little girl in your house recently, you know that gives them oxygen. I mean, that's like life in a box to a little girl, right? An American Girl doll. And I got her out, and I was freaking out, dancing around. I had her and was yelling, being very dramatic, because I am my father's daughter in that way. But then I looked back in the box, and there was something else. And I looked, and it was an American Girl doll magazine. And as I'm flipping through this on the living room floor, this whole new world just opens before my eyes. And there's other dolls, and they have clothes, and they have furniture. And I'm the spender of the Ramsey family, so I'm definitely one that's like, I want. And so I took the magazine at 6, and I was like, look at all this stuff, Mom and Dad, let's get more. And they said very bluntly, Rachel, we do not have the money to go pay for all of that American Girl doll stuff. No, play with your doll, happy birthday, little 6-year-old. And then later that afternoon, Dad came over to me and he said, hey, Rachel, I have an idea. And so we got into the car and we drove to the local flea market. And we were getting out and we were walking around. He said, okay, Rachel, if you see any kind of doll furniture that you like, tell me. And I said, okay. So I remember holding his hand and we're walking through, and over in the corner, I see a white wicker doll set. And I said, Dad, look over there, look at that. And he said, okay, Rachel, I'm gonna go over and talk to the man who's selling it, and I'm gonna get it for less than what he's asking for. And that's called bargaining. Say bargaining. Bargaining. And we walked over there, true story, and I don't remember what was said or anything, but there was, they were talking, cash was exchanged, and the man put the furniture into a big black bag, and we walked away. And I said, Dad, did you do it? He said, oh yeah. He was asking $50, and I got it for $35. And I thought, my dad is the coolest. And I still have that white wicker doll set. And this is really just a symbol of really what Mom and Dad did with us as kids, of how we learned how to handle money. Mom and Dad were so gracious with us, taking us around and really having these teachable moments, showing us in real life, in real time, how to handle money. And that's why I'm so excited to talk to you guys tonight. I think it's, teaching your kids how to handle money, there's more to that. It's more about leaving a legacy. In Proverbs, it says, a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. An inheritance, I think that's one of finances, but I also think that's one of character and one of knowledge. My husband Winston and I, we were doing our budget the other night, because we do our budget together every month. And we were sitting there, and for the first time as an adult, I looked down at that and I thought, Winston, and I told him, I said, we're going to be okay. And not just okay, but we're going to do pretty well. And not because I'm Dave Ramsey's daughter, but because this stuff works. I mean, we are debt-free. We do budgets. We tell our money where to go. We're saving up for a vacation we want to take next summer. We fund our Roth IRA every year. I mean, we're doing this stuff, and it works. And here's the deal, parents. Your kids are going to learn how to handle money. They're either going to learn it from Visa's high school curriculum, they're going to learn it from TV, they're going to learn it from the next reality star, or they're going to learn it from you. Teaching your kids how to handle money is not the school's responsibility. It is your responsibility. In Proverbs, it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. And I don't think it's a coincidence that those two scriptures are right next to each other. I mean, so bluntly, what is it saying? You train up a child to show them how not to go into debt. It's pretty clear to me. And when I travel around, people always are asking me, what was it like growing up as Dave Ramsey's kid? Or what did your parents do that worked so well? And one of the best pieces of advice I can give them, which is so true, Mom and Dad did it with us as well, is to put your kids on commissions, not an allowance. And with this, they learn where money comes from. Money comes from work. It doesn't come from your back pocket, giving them a 20 every time they ask, right? They're associating work with money. And in this, your words are powerful. So use the word commission versus allowance. And with commissions, if you work, you get paid. If you don't work, you don't get paid. It's kind of like the real world, and it's good to learn that when you're 5. That is what we went through. Now, we have a great resource called Financial Peace Junior that helps parents teach their kids how to handle money. And in that, there's a great tool called the Commission Worksheet. Now, this is like a dry and erase board that you can put on your refrigerator and put your kids' chores on and how much money they make per chore, and they can go through and check off the days of the week they do the chore. And this is just a great tool to have so your kids see it. It's a visual reference. It keeps up with everything, and it just kind of keeps it organized and keeps it flowing. Now, there are going to be some chores your kids are going to do just because they're part of the family. For us Ramsey kids, it was always the kitchen. I can remember being little, and we always had to take our little plates to the sink. We got a little bit older, we had to scrape them off and put them into the dishwasher. And when we got to be teenagers, we were the ones cleaning the kitchen. And we didn't get paid for that. You just clean the kitchen because you are Ramsey. And so there will be chores that your kids will do just because they're part of the family. Now, things like feeding the dog or taking out the trash, making your bed, things like that we did, we got paid on. But again, there will be some stuff they're going to just do. And as a parent, you can decide which one you want. Now, during all of this, you want to teach by example, okay? More is caught than taught. I mean, I watched my dad tithe. I watched my mom clip coupons. So your kids are watching. And show them how you're living a debt-free life. Show them how insurance works, how an IRA works. I remember being at the grocery store with Mom, and she pulled out her white envelope to pay for the groceries. And she pulled out not just one, but 2 $100 bills. And I was probably 5 or 6. I remember saying, Mom, it takes $200 to feed us? And she said, that's right, sweetie. And when your little brother gets older, it's going to take a whole lot more. And I thought, wow. And I wouldn't have learned that unless she was doing that, and she took the time to show me what they were doing. Now, those are some great ideas, but here are some good mechanics you can use with your kids. When your kids are really young, you can go and get a big plastic clear container for savings. So after they do their chores and you pay them, you can put them in a big plastic container, and they get to watch it fill up. So it's a great visual reinforcement. And once it's full, then you get to go, and they get to go buy a toy with the money they earned. So you can go to Target or Toys R Us and let them pick out a toy and buy it. But parents, I will warn you that there will be a moment where you're going to get to the cash register, and they're going to count out their little bills and their coins, and there's not going to be enough money there. And in that, I do encourage you to teach them a hard, yes, a very difficult lesson. And that is that there's not enough money here, so we can't buy this toy. Now, we can go find a cheaper toy, or we can wait a week. You can do a few more chores. We can come back and buy it. But in this moment, sweetie, we cannot buy this toy. And this happened to me of course, there was a theme park that used to be in Nashville. And I remember we went one Saturday and Dad said, you can bring your big plastic containers, kids, and take some money out and you can play some of the games there. And so we were in the car, we were about to get out, and my sister, who's the godly child of the Ramsey family, said, I'm only gonna take out half. I'm gonna save the rest. And I was like, are you kidding me? No. And so I took my little jar and took all the money I had, stuffed them in my little shorts, and we went into the theme park. And of course, my personality, I see the first game, so I'm like, yeah, sure, that looks great. And I spent all my money in 5 minutes, and I ran out, and I looked at her, I was like, can I have some of your money? She said, no. And I looked at Mom and Dad, I said, can I have more money? I need to keep playing, I haven't won yet. And they said, no, Rachel, you're out of money, you're done for the day. And yes, that crushed my little soul, probably, but I learned in that moment, when the money runs out, you're done. But parents, please do not go overboard with this. I was talking to a group of parents a couple months ago, and this mom came down to the front after, and she said, Rachel, we do exactly what you teach. And my 10-year-old son, he saved up $300 for a game system. And we went down, but he forgot about tax. So when they rang it up, the tax was over. He didn't have enough money, so we left. And I thought, your 10-year-old saved up $300? You pay the tax. Are you kidding me? So remember, parents, that your little kids don't have to be little soldiers marching around the house, okay? That was not us as Ramsey kids. So just think, too many rules is just legalistic, but too much grace is enabling. So there is a balance, and you can find that. Now, when they get a little bit older, around 5 to 12 years old, you can advance them into the envelope system. So once they get paid, they learn to put their money into 3 envelopes: the giving envelope, the saving envelope, and the spending envelope. And this is a great technique because they kind of learn budgeting at a really early age. And also, parents, when you get to this point, I encourage you to pay consistently. For us, it was always Sunday nights. We always got paid on Sunday nights. And, if you think about you don't want to be paid inconsistently at work. If your boss says, oh, yeah, we forgot about that, we'll do it next week. You don't want that. And your kids they're the same way. Now, once they get to be teenagers, 13, 14, 15 years old, you can advance them into their own checking account. Now, this is great. Mom and Dad, of course, did this with us. The amount of money they would normally spend on us, they just put that amount into a checking account. And so we were in charge of taking care of that account that month. And this was great because there's so many lessons with having your own checking account. We got to go down to the bank with them and open it. We got to see it being open. You have to learn to budget. You have to learn to write a check. You have to learn to reconcile a banking account. And, I'm the one that kind of struggles with this money stuff. So, of course, 3 months into having mine, I bounced 3 checks. Yeah, that's awesome. Being Dave Ramsey's kid and bouncing 3 checks is like your dad being a dentist, but your teeth are like rotting out of your head or something. I mean, it really doesn't add up. And Dad made me go to the bank and go speak to the executive bank branch manager and go and personally apologize to him for lying. Because I told him I had money in his bank to spend, and I didn't. And that's a lie. You lied. And I couldn't even drive to the bank. I was only 15, and it was awful. Kind of a wound still a little bit, but I've moved past it. But I learned a great lesson because I haven't bounced a check since. A great success story I did have was when I was 16, because Mom and Dad told us from as long as I can remember that we had to save up and pay for half of our cars when we turned 16. So whatever money we saved, they would match. Dad liked to call that his 401 Dave plan. And so when I turned 16, I had saved $8,000. So I got a $16,000 car paid for in cash. And that was huge because with that car brought ownership. I mean, I drove that car differently than my friends who were just given cars. When Coke was spilled in the back seat, I freaked out about it, I mean, it was my car. So parents, I encourage you to do that. That's a great savings exercise you can do with your kids. Some parents make their kids pay for it all. That's fine. Half of it, that's great. Part of it, whatever you want to do. But have them take ownership in that purchase when they're 16. Now, all of this stuff that we talked about tonight, I didn't learn this in an hour. I didn't learn this in a day money session. I've had 20 years of practice doing this. So my encouragement to you parents, whether you have a 5-year-old or a 15-year-old, to start doing this stuff. Start talking to them, engaging them on the subject of money. Because again, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And that knowledge that you pass down to your kids, that is how you change a family tree. And I believe that is how you can leave a legacy. And also, teaching your kids how to handle money is great because when they're older, they won't come move back home with you and live in your basement. So it's great for everyone involved. Now, welcome back to the stage the man who taught me how to handle money, my dad, Dave Ramsey. Thanks.
Yes, I'm a little proud. No question about it, and I should be. Absolutely incredible. Well, she's right. They can end up back in your basement. We call those the boomerang generation. The ones that we threw them out, and they came back. Well, we've managed to avoid that so far at the Ramseys. Time will tell if it sticks or not, but part of the way they don't come back is they have a plan. They know how to handle money. They have a competence level with this. What's really scary is 1 in 7 parents right now in America have a grown child living with them. And listen to this one. This one scares me to death for our future. 1/3, 33% of the men that are between 22 and 34 live with their parents. Wow. I can't even imagine that. That is bizarre. Now, as Rachel said, there's a difference between being legalistic and a difference in too much grace, which is enabling. And the mother eagle, what she does is she builds her nest out of thorns, and then she plucks out the down as the little eaglets start to get of size, and those thorns are sticking them, giving those little eaglets reason to leave the nest. And so we don't want it to be too comfortable, but we do want to be a safety net when our children have issues. There's no question about that. But they need to fly and be free. It gives them dignity. The Bible talks about children being an arrow in your quiver. An arrow in your quiver. Now, what arrows are for is they're to be shot. They're to be released. They don't stay back there in the quiver. They are of no value in the quiver. But when you can turn loose a straight arrow into the marketplace doing ministry, it's a pretty rewarding thing. So weave this into the process. Now, our next lesson is all about cash flow planning. We're going to go deep into the budget process. Look at that thing. It's not boring. We're going to learn how to get control, how to tell our money what to do instead of wondering where it went. And I want you to do your first budget committee meeting this week. Nerds and free spirits unite. Here we go. And get that quick start budget. Start working on that together this week, putting all of that together. And those of you that are single, start looking for your accountability partner, someone to do your budget with. And folks, you got to understand the Financial Peace University stuff. Yes, it's biblical. And sometimes stuff in the Bible, it kind of affects our spirit, or it's kind of almost theoretical or strategic. The way that we teach this stuff, though, is we put clothes on it and it's application. You are literally going to be doing things every week differently than you ever have based on biblical principles. Things like doing a budget, things like working with your spouse, things like singles having an accountability partner, things like teaching your kids so that a godly man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, things like giving your grown child an eviction notice. All of these things. All of these things. So it's not theory. This is actual application on everything. We are about getting you to do things you've never done so that you get things you've never gotten. Take 1 minute and review what you're going to do as a result of this lesson.